what do I see happening here? The big print's going to become very apparent sometime in the next 12 months. And Bitcoin's going to go from 90 to 400. And people's socks are going to be blown off. And, they're going to wonder why they didn't believe. And those who sold are going to have deep regret. Bitcoin and gold are your lifeboats in a sinking currency world where, fiat currencies are the Titanic. Bitcoin is really just digital gold, and the world is a digital world. And to all the Bitcoiners who are frustrated, I would just say, hang on, you're going to be rewarded.
Larry begins by discussing his personal strategy, which is roughly half in gold, half in Bitcoin. He acknowledges that both camps, gold enthusiasts and Bitcoin maximalists, often criticize the other. Bitcoin advocates sometimes call gold boomer rocks, while gold purists dismiss digital assets as bullshit. For Larry, both are valid forms of sound money. Gold has been around for 5,000 years, offering analog stability, while Bitcoin represents digital sound money, a technology that is poised to replace gold over time. He emphasizes that patience is key. Both assets reward long-term holders who understand their historical behavior. Before we go on, just a quick reminder, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and commenting helps this reach more people who care about Bitcoin and macro trends. Appreciate the support.
I've always been kind of half and half gold and Bitcoin. I love them both, okay, for different reasons. And, there were a lot of times, a lot of my Bitcoiner friends were like, hey, get rid of those boomer rocks, you're an idiot. I was like, I'm not so sure. And then in turn, some of my gold friends are, that digital stuff, it's bullshit, it's all vapor. And, and I told them they were wrong too. And so, and really to me, they're both forms of sound money. One is analog sound money, it's been around 5,000 years. The other is digital sound money, which is going to replace analog, by the way, but that's going to take time. And, it's interesting to me, the sentiment in Bitcoin land right now reminds me very much of the sentiment in Bitcoin land, after one of the other drawdowns. I mean,
2022.
Right. And to me right now, silver gold mining stocks are a sell, and Bitcoin and MicroStrategy are strong buys. And so, one of the things about Bitcoin, one of the things when I look at an asset, I think it's very helpful to look at the history of the asset from the beginning of time. And Bitcoin trades like a wild animal, and it rewards people who have long-term patience. And, it's had enormous drawdowns, and yet it always comes back to make a higher high. And as Fred Krueger pointed out in his excellent book, Bitcoin 1 Million, it from 2018 to 2024, Bitcoin went up 700%. If you missed the 10 best days, you didn't make any money. And so, you get these God candles, you get these really rapid moves. I mean, let's take an example that I like to use a lot, because I've got a lot of Bitcoin friends who are kind of crying in their beer like, Jesus Christ, you're making a ton of money on gold. Why isn't my stuff participating? And I'm like, just relax, it's going to. And it's not only going to participate, it's going to do better than gold. But that's, you're being tested in terms of your patience. In 2020, COVID came along. They pivoted, COVID came along, the Fed printed a ton of money, and gold went from 1,200 to 2,000 really quickly, okay, from March to May of that year. Bitcoin flatlined between, 5 and 8,000, just flatlined. And I had a lot of Bitcoin, I had a lot of gold, and I was looking at this, this is really weird. How come Bitcoin's not moving? Well, then one day Bitcoin woke up that summer and went from 10 to 60.
Right.
So it went up 6x in like 3 months. And that's just the way it behaves. And so what do I see happening here? The big print's going to become very apparent sometime in the next 12 months. And Bitcoin's going to go from 90 to 400. And people's socks are going to be blown off. And, they're going to wonder why they didn't believe. And those who sold are going to have deep regrets. I mean, the notion of selling it at, in the mid 90s, thinking you can buy it back in the 60s, don't get me wrong. We might go to 60 if we get a big crack up and a correlation of one event. But one thing is for sure, if we do get that event, what's the government response going to be? They're going to come in with the fire hoses like they did the last 2 times. They're going to print like crazy, and it's, we're not going to be at 60 for very long. It's going to go from 60 to 400. So my view is with each of these, the returns are getting lower as Bitcoin gets more heavily adopted, but, and the drawdowns, by the way, are getting lower too. My sense is, Bitcoin's going to explode from 90 to something between 2 and 400 sometime in the next 18 to 24 months. I think I feel very strongly about that. And I feel like buying MicroStrategy at 160, I mean, I feel like I'm stealing from people. It's like, holy shit. I mean, you and I we went through the math pre-show, and I mean, this is $1,000 to $3,000 stock. People tend to price fixate going backwards. And, look, they're all based in fiat prices, right? And I've said this on other shows. I really strongly believe this. I mean, Bitcoin and gold are your lifeboats in a sinking currency world where, fiat currencies are the Titanic. And, I mean, I've got friends who are, they didn't listen to me. They say, I wish I'd bought it like you did at 10,000, 20,000, whatever. And same with gold. I was pushing gold for years and it was 1,000 or, 1,500. And I said, well, okay, you're right. You didn't get that. But, what you got to think about this is it's a critical state kind of thing. And once the process of fiat failure starts, Gresham's law, as you know, that Titanic, it's going to sink. So that seat in the lifeboat now costs you more than I bought my seats for. I bought my seats a few years ago and I got a pre-sale discount.
Yeah.
But guess what? You're on the Titanic. Do you want a seat or don't you? You got to pay more for it now.
Yeah.
But do you want it? Do you want to hang? Do you want to stick with the Titanic? And it's not, that's a little over dramatic. And I'm not sure fiat's going to totally fail. But I think the point is that, and a point I try and make to when I talk to investors, old, young, whatever, is just you've got to have a piece of your net worth in things that are protected from this debasement because we not only see debasement, but if you look at the math, you see accelerating debasement. Yeah. And so to not have, I don't know, I mean, people ask me, what's the minimum? If you don't have 20% of your assets in this stuff, you're nuts.
In gold and Bitcoin.
And both, either one.
Yeah.
I mean,
or both combined.
Both combined. I mean, I probably have 80%, but, that's because I'm a partisan and I'm in the game and I really strongly believe in it. And real estate fits a little bit there too, but it's got a lot of other issues, as you know. So, to me, it's fundamental stuff. And I don't. The other thing I would say, Mark, is when I go to a lot of these shows, I talk to people, I look at the stock market statistics, I look at everything else. We're still in the first or the second inning. I mean, there were Bank of America stats that show that like 70% of the country owns nothing related to precious metals. 70%. Yeah. I mean, before this is over, these are going to be like the .com stocks. Everyone's going to be talking about gold stocks at the shoe shine stand. I mean, and Bitcoin stocks too. I mean, the MicroStrategy. I mean, we are still in the early innings. I mean, because this isn't just it's not a trade. I mean, it's funny. They came out and somebody gave a name to this. I think it was Bank of America or somebody said, the monetary debasement trade now has a name. Buy gold, buy silver, buy Bitcoin. Okay. It's not a trade.
Right.
It's a monetary debasement trend that has years, if not decades, to run. Now, I would change my mind if I saw government getting responsible. I always tell investors looking to join my fund, I say, this is what can make me wrong.
Right.
If the government suddenly starts to get really responsible, I'm wrong, we're going to back off of this thing. But, and they always laugh, they chuckle.
Because that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, what do we really think the odds are the government's going to get responsible? I mean, it just tends to, it's like a ratchet. It just only goes in one direction. Government wants to do more and more and more. Yeah. I mean, here's Trump, and maybe he's right. Maybe we do have to grab all these countries and secure our hemisphere to protect us from, the threats of overseas stuff. But, the defense budget from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion, I mean, good God, man. I mean, where's that money going to come from? I know we're going to print it.
While Bitcoin offers high growth potential, gold and silver provide stability and protection. Larry points out that gold has historically experienced drawdowns of only 20–25%, making it less volatile than Bitcoin. For investors nearing retirement or with lower risk tolerance, gold remains a critical component of a diversified strategy. He also notes the industrial importance of silver, particularly in technology and renewable energy, reinforcing that physical assets are increasingly valuable in a resource-constrained world.
Yeah, they're monetary debasement insurance, and Bitcoin is really just digital gold, and the world is a digital world. And, to all the Bitcoiners who are frustrated, I would just say, hang on, you're going to be rewarded. But I, as you know, I mean, I get on Twitter, I get so much shit from both sides. I mean, I get the gold guys just attacking me for being a Bitcoiner. I get the Bitcoin guys saying, get rid of those damn boomer rocks. And I'm like, no, guys, there's a place for both. Yeah. I mean, gold is less volatile than Bitcoin. If you're 80 or 90 years old, you don't want to have a 70% drawdown on one of your assets, right? Mm-hmm. And, gold has never had a drawdown like that. The biggest one's like 20–25%. So, I mean, Trump has talked about doing gold-backed treasury bonds, and Bessent has said he wants to be at the table for the next Bretton Woods. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know how to handicap that. I mean, are they going to do a monetary reset? I mean, I talked about it in my book. I mean, that's what we need to do. I mean, if we do that, we're broken because the money's not sound. We need to return to sound money. So it's pretty simple. Do it sooner rather than later.
Yep.
Monetary reset, by the way, what does that look like? It would be extremely painful, one-time inflationary. But the government would say, hey, we stand ready to buy or sell gold at $25,000 an ounce.
Yep.
And then whether the price of gold goes up or down from there would be, they would either find themselves, swamped with gold people giving them the coins and saying, give me the cash, or the other way around, saying people would be sending them the 25 grand because the market price of gold had gone higher. And they could do the same thing with Bitcoin. I mean, they would say, $1, the Bitcoin is now valued at $1 million a coin, and we stand ready to buy or sell it. And we're going to put it on our balance sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Then effectively you've returned to a sound money standard, and that's what they should do. But, meanwhile, in that scenario, bondholders have gotten destroyed.
Yeah.
And the one-time inflation would be big, really big.
Yeah.
So, will they have the guts to do it? I doubt it. I don't know. We'll see. Monetary policy, nation state monetary policy should fit in with overall geopolitical strategy and policy.
Right.
And so, the whole independent Fed canard is kind of stupid. I mean, it's like, I mean, and it makes it difficult for, it's very, let me say it this a different way. It's very good for the Fed. It's very good for Wall Street. It's very good for quintillionaires. It's very good for lenders.
Yeah.
It's very bad for the working man. It's very bad for industry. It's very bad for most of the country. And so you kind of got to make a decision. Which side of that fence do you want to be on? Do you want to have a productive, middle class that's well paid and it's all working, or do you, things are fair, or do you want to have this, U.S. dollar reserve status where, the Wall Street people win, the Washington elites win, the Federal Reserve economists win, and the rest of us suffer? And that's, and so, Bessent even said it when he came into office. He said, look, it's time for, Wall Street's been doing fine. It's time for Main Street to start winning. And so, I think that this is part of the policy that they're trying to pursue. And as you see, as we see, with Venezuela and Greenland and everything else, it's very clear this administration, they're thinking very big, and they're saying to themselves, all right, China really got a jump on us. We let them run in our sandbox for a bunch of years. We're behind. We're in a terrible position in terms of critical minerals, as we know that. And they just, I think it's fascinating the way they put a bunch of money into MP materials. They put a bunch of money into this Korean zinc smelter that's being built. And, they're trying very hard to reverse the dead end road that we've walked down, which is we got so financialized that, and it's not working. This Grumman does a great job of pointing this out.
Yeah.
You can't print silver. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'll send you a silver certificate. No, that's not going to work. I actually need silver to put in my Tesla. I need it to put in my solar panel. And we kind of always thought this paper and this financialization, we got the world by the balls because we control the whole. Wall Street would get to control the paper market. And what China and the BRICS and everybody else, they're all saying is, yeah, that's nice, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's materials and shit that counts. It's not paper.
Yeah.
And, Tyndale, there have been a bunch of people pointing this out, and Balaji's done a good job of pointing this out, right? That, the world is changing from a financially driven world controlled by King Dollar, Wall Street, and the Federal Reserve to a, proof of work, proof of stuff world where, if you don't, great. Sell me a piece of paper silver. I know it's worth nothing.
Yeah.
I want the real metal. And that's what's going on in the silver market right now. Everyone's demanding the real metal. The deliveries in the silver market are through the roof. It's really something to behold.
Yeah.
And, so it's a big secular shift. And so it's very easy for somebody to look at the silver price and go, oh, this is a bubble and it's going to burst. And I look at it the other way, and I'm like, no, this is the beginning of a reset that could have decades to run. It's certainly years and arguably decades to run.
Yeah.
Larry Lepard believes we are still in the early innings of a decades-long trend favoring sound money. Both gold and Bitcoin are essential for protecting wealth against fiat debasement. Bitcoin offers explosive growth for patient investors, while gold and silver provide stability and industrial utility. He advises investors to ignore short-term volatility and focus on long-term structural trends, including rising global demand, institutional adoption, and the fundamental shift from paper to real assets. Larry predicts massive upside in Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, while physical metals will continue to gain importance as governments and markets recognize their value.